Good morning. This is Erica from Flicker Hill Homestead here in North Central Mass. We're in zone 5B, roughly 155-day season or so. Average last frost is sometime around the first week of October, but we do sometimes, in the last couple years, has been much later. And with a little bit of work, a little bit of coverage, we can extend the season another good few weeks. We got a lot done. So if you've been watching these weekly tours, garden tours, you will see all the wonderful mulch. So we added another layer. We had a huge pile over here, put a nice big dent in it. We try to do this once a year or so as it continues to break down. This really helps on keeping the pathways nice and clear. The tunnel is looking fantastic, and I'm going to try to get through this garden tour before it pours on me. Lots of birds out this morning. So dill I still need to pick, and our basil's doing really well over here. Actually, it's doing really well everywhere. We picked a bunch of it recently. I'll always start using that for filler in the bouquets pretty quick here as it's starting to flower. The ones that I do for pesto and things like that, we have, I pick off the bud so it doesn't go to flower. These Zowie zinnias are just gorgeous, and they actually have done the best this year, and so been really great cuts, decent long length on stems. It's a huge bumble, so that's been working out pretty good. The beans are doing pretty well. I need to come in here and actually do a good picking. We use green beans for dog treats because of one of our dogs has a food allergy. The not giant pumpkin, but the long pie pumpkin is starting to come down, and the watermelon and cucumbers are starting to come down. So here's the watermelon. There's a little tiny one back there. Everything is so late this year, so hopefully we have a late frost also. You can see here's a baby pie, long pie, and this one I really need to support. It's growing so fast. Over here I've got some cucumbers coming up. There's cucumbers over there too, but you can't even really see them with the beans. Over here with our dahlias, a couple of them are starting to get pretty decent size. That one in the corner, I think it just gets too much shade over there. So first year growing dahlias in, I don't know, 25 years maybe. The mums were definitely having some issues. The asters are finally taking off, but the bunnies did do a number on those. The problem I'm having now are some of them are actually going to bud already. And as you can see, they're not as big as I want them to be. So this is my first year growing fall mums, and as you can see, we've got the irrigation and stuff now finally set up. It's been so wet. Mums don't love a lot of wet. We also were a little delayed in potting them up when we got the plugs, so a couple of them did seem a little bit root bound. And because it was so wet, we didn't have the irrigation going, and then we weren't feeding the mums except for foliar feed. And I do think that everything I'm researching, mums need a lot of food, so that could be part of the problem. We do have a couple of Lisianthus in here as well, kind of tucked in. I thought this was really interesting. All of these had looked really malnourished, and I did the special feeds on them 3 or 4 days ago, and they're all looking so much better. But it's interesting because I did secondary feed on this row, and I didn't do it on that row. And I was trying to see if you could see a difference. I don't know if you really can. So either way, at least these are fed. These ones are the orange. They're almost like daisy-like, I think. So they have these yellow centers, pumpkin igloos. Here, this bed I still haven't planted, but I'm about to because the lettuce starts are finally coming up. I'm pretty sure I'm doing lettuce in that one. This bed, these tiny peppers, not sure that anything's really going to come of it, but our cayennes are doing very well. And we have some of, I think these are the orange Thai chilies. There, basil, snapdragons. The sweet potatoes, those were all dripped way down, so I just had my dad flip them right back up on top of themselves. You can see they're doing absolutely fine. They will still come back out. The pelleted lettuce seed is still not up, and I have been watering this every day. Peppers, we've got some of the pepperoncinis, basil. The marigold's starting to come back now, the one that I transplanted in the middle of the heat of the day. Not really what you're supposed to do. The pepper bed is doing all right. We're still so behind. But they are loaded, which is good. And some of them are decent size. I still need to come in and prune. I like to keep this bottom area really nice and leaf free and everything. You can see there's not many weeds in there. Could probably weed that. And I still have a few of these onions that are still going. Did a big fertilizer on these because these front ones were going a little bit light, like they needed more nitrogen. We've picked a few peppers at this point, but nothing like previous years. Usually at this point we're already freezing and canning excessively, and we haven't started either. The carrots, here, this corner and that corner, are doing really well in this bed. We pulled most of the radishes at this point from Michelle in the Meadow. She's got a channel about Birdie's beds, and compared to Vigo's, actually, I think. And then our lettuce seed, I think, really got pushed from the rain, but that's fine because these were all supposed to just get transplanted anyways. So this one is really close to the transplant size that I like to do. So these will get transplanted hopefully in the next week. And what I'm going to do is spread them out into that bed and that other bed over there. And maybe even the half of the other bed back there. Probably pick some lettuce today. I did want to show you guys. So if you pick, this is an old one, you can see it's kind of dying, but this is an old lettuce stem. If you cut right at the soil height, right, and don't leave it at anything, it's going to not do very well and it won't reproduce, versus this one where you can see I cut it about 1.5 inches up above, and all of a sudden I have multiple little lettuce sprouts coming off of that. So if you want to do a full head of lettuce versus picking leaves, just remember the difference between cutting it at the soil length height or giving it some space. Celery's doing all right in this bed too. So should have some really good fall beds, and then carrots over there. The beets, we pulled most of them at this point. And I probably just need to pull the rest of these. This will also potentially be a lettuce spot. I was gonna plant more cucumbers on this back side last week, and I didn't get to it. We're about 60 days out from our first frost, so it might not be worth it. They're about a 55-day crop. So right at this point, we are really being a little too close. You can see all of these squash flowers are going, which is great. And beans are intermixed in this one. Almost every squash flower has a bee of some sort at this point. And more pumpkins. This one pumpkin plant looks like it is just gonna do amazing, so I need to feed it. So I'll come in here and put some granulars in here. I did do a foliar feed, and the end of it, which is now hanging over here, grew like 2 feet that day. I swear, it was ridiculous. Probably something I should keep watch on is how fast this grows. It must be averaging about 10 to 12 inches a day. Just pretty amazing. This is statice and basil, and I do have some of the picnic peppers in here. Poblanos and guajillos here. The guajillos we really wait till they're red and then we dehydrate. The poblanos we eat both green and let them go red, and then we dehydrate those, and those become anchos. If you buy anchos at the store, make some really good sauces. Thai chilies here, and then some Lizzie's. These are the jalapenos plants I was trying to save, and then you can see the onions are now happy, much happier. These are the ones that I had forgotten about, so I stuck them in here, and they're starting to regrow. Over here, there's roughly about 600 carrots in this 9-in-1 Birdie's bed, and they are pelleted. So for the most part, I was able to get them to keep, 1.5 inches or so of space. Some of them definitely not as good. So I will keep an eye on those. But overall, pretty happy with the germination on carrots. I don't tend to have that much issue with germination. And I am trying to keep these little weeds out of here. This back bed is one of the cut flower beds that I was trying. It's a low 8-in-1, and really been really happy with the Cosmos stems for cuts. Doing deep cuts has been really, really productive. You can see that's like our 4th shoots that we have here. You can see down where I was cutting them, and that's been working really well to get some beautiful it is pouring. Beautiful cuts here. These Lizzie's are still needing some more food, so I will probably do that tomorrow, hopefully when the rain stops. And over here, these are almost ready to actually cut. These Lisianthus, the really tall ones are actually the ones that I got from Honeyfield Farms up in Norwich, Vermont. We did a trade, which is always fun. And then these ones over here, though they're a little shorter, are the plugs I bought from Rakers, or through Ball Seed in our wholesale account. And so these first flowers, usually you cut them off, and you're going to wait till the second one is open and the third bloom is like bulging. Some people wait for 3 blooms to even be going at that time. Giant marigolds make a wonderful end cap, but they also actually do great on cuts. So I have them here for dual purpose. Zinnias in the middle, I actually have been doing cuts from those because my zinnias over on the other side haven't been as good. I finally tied up this Volunteer. It's I think a Torahina Volunteer, orange cherry. Jay really likes those. So I just added an extra spool up there for this guy. And that way we can mulch underneath it. The red onions are amazing, so I'm ready to harvest most of those pretty quick here. This bed is 27 feet long. I still need to prune, and I need to clip these up. We do a single stem on growing our tomatoes, and we cut off all of these suckers to make sure that the fruit is actually on the main stem. There's a couple different schools of thought, but it does really decrease the amount of disease that you're getting by having them well pruned. It allows me to grow 50 tomato plants in a smaller amount of space. So 25 on each side, and you figure 27 feet long. They're pretty tight. We do add fertilizer, organic fertilizers, to these, and foliar sprays that keep them really nice and healthy. And we had somebody up just this past week that was saying they can't get their leaves as thick and healthy as ours. And a lot of that is the foliar feed that we're doing. Keeps them a little bit better. And it's just a fish and seaweed combined with Micro 5000, sometimes liquid humates as well. We had moved these over here just while we mulch, so until we get this last little piece done, these will stay out over here. They're a mix of jalapenos and guajillos and serranos, maybe pepperoncinis, habanero, sweet potatoes, and the last of these couple glads that need to flower. Over here is what we call the cut flower bed. This is all for cuts, no veggies at all. And definitely having some issues with the Lizzies. I really needed to put the netting up, the horizontal netting, and I didn't get to that. And you can kind of tell from them all flopping over. Also, we don't have any irrigation on these beds, and I think that hurt us this year because of our soil quality, probably. It's not holding water, so the soil structure is having issues. So even though we've had record-breaking rain, we're still not having enough for these. So I'm working on fertilizing on them. Once I cut these down, if I have time for second flush, which I should, I might be able to get the netting up for that. And then I was letting these sunflowers, the bees were obsessed with them. They're the white sunflowers, and I love them too, but due to the rain and things like that and the weather, I didn't get to them as quickly as I wanted to, and then the bees were all over them. So I just said, you know what, I'm going to let them go. So I'm going to come in here now that they have started turning their heads, and I'm going to cut them down. Maybe I'll feed the deer out in the lower lot here. The celosia, I wanted to show you guys this because I thought it was really cool. So I did some experimenting. First year growing the celosia, half the people said make sure you cut it, and half the people said wait for the first flush. And so I did half and half-ish. So what you can see here are these front ones are all ones that I trimmed early, and decent flowers coming in. Nice length, maybe 24, 26 inches in length, maybe a little more than that for these offshoots. And then here, these are 3.5 feet tall. But the problem with these is that you have to make sure you're good, because this is a very thick base, whereas these stems can actually fit in bouquets better. So depending on your use, I would say it wasn't bad to have a few of these early. I already cut the ones that I left tall up over there to use. And they were a little bit bigger stemmed, but they were fine on some of the larger $40 bouquets. These sunballs, finally got the bunnies to leave them alone. And I was having some aphid issues here, and just hosing them off actually worked pretty good. So these are mostly second shoots at this point, which is great. So we'll have a bunch more of those to dry. Straw flowers, I've been trying to cut those for all of the craft projects for the winter. Larkspur, I have cut these for 2 months maybe. I thought these were a single cut and done, but maybe it's the weather this year, but they have done really, really well in giving me multiple stems. At this point, they're mostly going to be too short. I could do some mason jars, maybe, things like that. Over here, I have seeded some sunflowers, and you can see some of those are coming up here pretty good. Some of them are not, so I might need to come in and replant those, because if I don't, these will get way too big. And ideally, we don't want them this big. We want them to be much smaller. So I think that's probably an issue with the spacing we have on the tarp. Our fall asters, or not fall asters, just the regular asters, are doing pretty good. And actually getting long enough stems to cut, so probably try to plan on cutting some of those this week. Here's some more celosia. These ones, wiggle test is needed on those. Amaranth is self-seeded everywhere, which is good because I didn't actually seed any. I have been using for greens, and a few of them I've been using their actual flowers. Dianthus isn't doing so great. These are basically carnations. I was hoping that maybe towards the fall, as the temps cool, it'll start getting better. Then we have a bunch more Lisianthus here, and this one is just absolutely gorgeous coloring. I'm really in love with that pink, and I'm not a pink person. Got zinnias. Very slow growing this year. Normally, like once they're at a certain height, they just go. These snaps look like I'm gonna have a really good second flush of, they're starting to get a little stronger and nice straight stems. So happy with that at least. And then I have a few really minis, sunflowers that were shaded out, that were the second or third planting over here. Got some really short ones as well. We'll see how those go. Over here, we still haven't planted these two main beds here, and that's partly because I can't make up my mind. The Lisianthus down here definitely had the irrigation was fine working, but I think what really helped was the fertilizers that we've been using on them. And then at the end here, I don't know what happened. These ones look like maybe the irrigation isn't pumping enough water on the ends, but this one it should be, because this is like the first lines. So I'm going to try feeding them a lot more and see if that helps. But something's going on in this back part of the bed, whereas all of these are all the same plugs, so they shouldn't have any issues. I do need to come and weed, as you can see. And then I need to get that net up on those quickly. Over here, I need to come and actually pull a bunch of these out and transplant them. They're basil, and I'll probably spread some of that basil out in the rows behind me as well. And onions, and then I tried to do a second flush of corn, which didn't work very well. And I need to pick these onions that I've already folded over. Our silver queen corn is actually doing okay. Still a little skinny, and so we've got some time before we can pick. But it looks like we'll actually have some decent corn, whereas the corn over here, as you can see, is wicked tiny. And some of that is due to trees, of course. So we picked our first tomatillos, and so those are in the fridge now, or our counter now. But you can see I have tomatillos everywhere, so I'm going to have a bunch of those coming in hopefully pretty quickly. And these are summer squash, so I'm hoping to have a good amount of late flush of summers. The Pro Cuts, you can see, actually did, the one I did snip is actually branching, even though they're not supposed to. So you can always try to leave them and see if you can get some additional flowers out of them. And you can see I've cut most of these at this point. And then the branching sunflowers are starting to get to a point where I should be able to actually, reach the stems of the branching, but you can see how long these branches are. So Jace might be helping me cut some of these pretty quick. The tomatillos, I should mention, there are multiple varieties, and I didn't realize for years I was buying the small type. So this is a verde, it's a green tomatillo from Johnny Seeds, but make sure you're looking at the description on those before you just buy a tomatillo. And you need 2 plants for cross-pollination. So over here, we've got our long pie pumpkin again, although I think it looks better on the tunnel. and our mini butternut and our baby Pam pie pumpkins over here. And then you can see our little tiny corn. A lot of places are having really wormy corn up around here in New England, so definitely be cautious of that, and make sure when you feel it feel like you can feel it's big and full. If you're don't squeeze too hard, but if you are looking at the holding it and it's feeling skinny, it's not going to be very good corn. So something to definitely watch. These are the dark colored. I really am loving this dark sunflower this year. Been having fun with that in bouquets. And I picked our first zucchini as well. I'll try to get back out here. Over here, this guy's a cucumber. I seeded the rest of this, but I think they got dug up. Something happened. And this is a jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, I'm pretty sure. So I'm hoping this actually starts taking off real quick, because it'd be nice to have a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns for the fall. Up here are delphiniums. These are, I bought plugs this year. I've been picking quite a bit of them. Actually, that one back there looks like it's ready to be picked. That's doing really well. The verbena is doing pretty well. Hopefully this is going to drop a ton of seeds right here. These actually do make great cuts. And then you'll notice the dill and the asparagus. And then what's interesting is the watermelon here. This is from my mom's patch that she had, and it was this tiny little thing. This has been in heaven this year, which is great. And then the one I started from seed kind of broke. So it got like kind of pushed out, it looks like, from the more mature plant. This one is 2 or 3 years old. This one is something like, I don't know, 50 years old, 40 something years old, that she's had forever and ever and ever, that she just keeps on dividing every once in a while. But this is all just from a small little divide that she gave me this spring. And I didn't even put it in the ground right away, which was not good. So I thought that was funny. These poppies I started from seed in the spring, and they're really late this year, but hey, I'll take it. And then chamomile's not doing so good. I really need to get these saplings cut. And behind these, we have the thistle that should bloom next year. And then the dahlias back here. And it looks like some blue plurum finally came up, but very stunted over here. So I might not be able to use that for flowers. I had put a whole bunch of seed here and in May, and we had wicked drought and then crazy amount of rain. Butterfly bush isn't doing as well as I'd hoped this year. And then these are the perennial, I think they're called Mexican sunflowers. So first time I'm growing those. They're perennial, I think, in zone 5, so we should be good in here in 5B. Bee balm is doing all right. Sedum. This is our peony. It should be really good for cuts this next year. And the I'm let a bunch of the yarrow here, the white yarrow and the yellows and pinks, kind of go to seed here on purpose, because I really want to have a massive patch here. Is my goal anyways. These glads are all over the place. Not the best idea. I might actually just plant the glads out in the bed over there next year and do some netting for them. The Shasta daisies didn't do very well this year, which I was really disappointed with. This is the second year that we've had them here. And they're just not pumping out more blooms. Usually it's cut and come again, and these ones are just not doing that great. So I'll cut them and see if I can get more. Here's a basil patch I did for cuttings, and though we have eaten some of that as well. And the Comfrena are finally getting some height, so but I might just use these for craft projects for the winter. Tansy is doing all right. I have a bigger patch actually on the on the bank over there that came wild. These finally bloomed. These are the Chinese forget-me-nots, but really short stemmed, so I'm not sure what to do with those. And then the Madam Butterfly Snapdragons are gorgeous, but again, stunted. I think everything's just malnourished and needs more sun. I did have larkspur come up here finally. It was planted a bunch of seed in here and got one. And I also have Nigella came up. So there's some back there and a few other spots where I seeded a whole bunch. Hyssop is doing very well for pollinators. And then Cosmos here, I did pick a couple of these. This is an apricot Cosmos and I'm in love with it. Columbine did not do well this year, but I'm hoping maybe it'll have enough root in some of these plants to do okay for next. Here's another Madam Butterfly, and this red one. This red, the camera doesn't do it justice. It's like a deep red. It's gorgeous. And I did actually have a borage come up. Irises have already gone by. More glads coming. I got 100 bulbs of glads, and I planted them over a course of 6 or 8 weeks. So they're gonna hopefully keep on going for a little while. And again, you can see with the rain, I missed a few of those. And the Liatris is gorgeous, and I did do a couple of cuts from that, but I don't want to do too much since this is the first year it's been here. And some of the zinnias are finally doing well over here, whereas these ones are stunted. So it's an interesting year, really hard to keep adjusting. And this bed being mostly my perennials and cut bed, but mostly perennials, I just do probably the least amount of maintenance over here, as you can see with the weeding and everything. So that, I think, is all the outdoor gardens. And then I have the hoop house, which I'll go in real quick. So Jace and I and Dad were working on cleaning this all up so we can put fresh mulch down. We're going to put cardboard down and try to clean up this area out here. And inside, this was on top of the bench before. We keep on deciding whether or not we're going to actually put it back on the ground and do another raised bed in here or not. Scallions in the back all need to get pulled at this point. And then these Lizzies were having nutrient issues. You can see the new growth is actually much healthier, so the fertilizer is working. And then here's some more Lisianthus, which are just gorgeous. All the bees sleeping in here. And look at this color here. Absolutely amazing. I need to come in and prune and tie up more of the tomatoes. And then our cucumbers in here are doing pretty well. Let's see, that one's about ready to be cut. And a monster dill in the back. More Lizzie's here. This is our late plugs that we bought from Rakers. Fruit trees I'm definitely killing. I'm not a fruit tree person, it turns out. Calendula I seeded last week. And then the lettuce is coming up. These 2 grow bags are full of lettuce, which will get transplanted out into multiple different locations. And then these are the Lisianthus that I started back in January. And just to give you an idea of how hard they are to grow, these are the plugs that I bought here. This is like, oh, almost grab a bee. A blue flash coloring. The Snapdragons, I've had so many cuts of snaps out of these in here. They've just been great. And same with the larkspur in here under the shade cloth, where I think a 40% shade cloth plus the plastic itself, the 6 mil greenhouse plastic. So in here it smells very sweet. This huge mound of sweet peas. I'll probably take this down pretty quick here now that I planted the back part of that, now that the ranunculus are done. And this has been replanted. We've got some dahlias in here, so I can hopefully have some really late dahlias. That's a goal. So I'm going to probably take this whole wall of sweet peas down, maybe this weekend. So that's what we have going on here. Our lemon is still trying, and I still need to plant the hosta and the berries. And I've got all the bamboo stakes ready so I can get in here for the Lizzies as needed. You can kind of see I've had to support some of them. A couple of these are ready to be picked as early as today. So, but until I have an order, I don't think I will we'll get those picked. So a little cleaner in here. We'll probably move those hot pepper bags in here towards the end of the fall before last frost. But it's definitely doing pretty good. Be good to get the cucumbers going a little bit better. So that's the garden tour for today. And there's a couple more beds I didn't show you, but these are the main gardens that we're working in almost daily. If you have any questions or want to see something else or something specific or how I do something, please let me know in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, I would love it if you'd come and follow along our journey. And I should also note that we have a couple updates coming on the sawmill. You can see the new trailer is attached, so we'll go over that pretty soon. Thanks for watching and happy gardening.